In this video, I take a ferry trip to a beautiful lakefront camping site that I have to myself, as well as do some car camping cooking. We are at the Francois Lake ferry terminal, which is very small. There's no attendants. You just line up from lane 1 to 4 or 5. And the ferry goes back and forth across the lake during the day. At night, it isn't running. They leave the ferry over on the south side of Francois Lake so that if there's an emergency, it can be used to bring anybody back over here. There's quite a few wreck sites over there for camping. We've camped over there before. We used to have friends who lived over there. It's a very nice area. I quite like it over there. And I'm just going to take the ferry over, show you what that's like, and hopefully we can find a nice place to camp tonight. This is the Indian Bay Recreational Site. That is Francois Lake, which is the lake that we just crossed over on the ferry. And at the moment, it's almost 5 o'clock on a Friday night, and I am the only one here. There are lots of campsites, all with picnic tables and fire pits. There's no wood around, so I probably won't have a fire tonight, and it's a little damp anyway, so. But yeah, it's pretty nice. Well, it doesn't get much better than this. The car is even level. So tonight I'm going to make dinner using my Thrive Life freeze-dried food. This is freeze-dried chicken, freeze-dried mushrooms, and freeze-dried onions, and I'm going to reconstitute them and basically just use them in a wrap. I've got some of the Mission Carb Balance wraps that I bring up from the States because they don't make them here in Canada, and do up some of those and call it dinner. So first I'm going to pull out my table. I'm going to start rehydrating the freeze-dried food first so it has time to soak up the water and turn back into chicken, mushroom, and onions. So I have my little plastic containers that I use for that. This stuff comes in sealed cans with lids on them, so you use what you want out of the can and put the lid back on, stick it back in the cupboard. It doesn't need to be refrigerated because it's freeze-dried. But I take them and I put them into Ziploc bags because the cans would take up a lot of room if I brought them with me, so I just dumped the cans. They're just the pantry size cans, the smaller size cans anyway, and I just dump them into Ziploc bags so that I can just not take so much bulk with me. This chicken needs to have hot water to reconstitute it, and it needs to soak for about 3 to 4 minutes. I also put on it how much water goes with 1 cup of this. So this takes half a cup of water to 1 cup of the dried chicken. The mushrooms are 1/3 cup of water to 1 cup of mushrooms. I'm not going to do a whole cup of mushrooms, but you get the idea. And the onions are also 1/3 to 1 cup. So I'm going to put the onions and the mushrooms together because they take the same amount of water and probably around the same amount of time to rehydrate. I didn't bring any measuring cups with me to measure all of this, so it's just going to be kind of a rough estimate. So I'm just going to do a couple of tablespoons of onions. They don't shrink a lot when they're freeze-dried. When you dehydrate something, it sucks all the moisture out and it gets tiny like a raisin or a prune. This stuff, what are you doing, Fred? This stuff doesn't act like that when it's freeze-dried. It pretty much stays the same size. The mushrooms and the chicken look a lot alike, so I have to actually write down on these which is which when I have them both out at the same time. So there we have the mushrooms and the onions. And I'm going to dump in some water here. And if you use too much water, you can just drain them before you actually need to use them, unless the thing you're using needs water in it as well. Then you can just leave it in there. So I'm just going to let that one sit. We'll get out the stove to heat up water to rehydrate the chicken. I'm also going to heat up some water for tea. I started using these interesting bags for water. They look like this. They're very thick plastic, but they're not like the plastic of the collapsible water jugs you normally get for camping. They're kind of different. I ordered them, and I think there was 4 in the pack. And because I don't completely trust the plastic, I put them in plastic reusable shopping bags that I've picked up over time. It just adds a little bit more security to the water in case it decided to leak. But so far they've been working really well. I brought 3 of them with me. I kept 2 of them on the floor behind the driver's seat, and then 1 back here, which just fit perfectly in here between the stove drawer, cutting board, and the side of the car. Just worked out perfectly. So I'm also going to refill my jug here. So that's what I do, is I just keep refilling this jug, and now I've got another one I picked up at Costco because they were on sale super cheap, and they were really nice ones. So the water is hot, but it's not boiling, but it just needs to be hot. So I'm going to add the water to the chicken. Let it start reconstituting. And then just wait for the kettle to boil so I can make a cup of tea. Now I've mixed the mushrooms and the onions and the chicken all together just for the last little bit of rehydrating them. So the kettle's come to a boil, and I've put my pan on here, and I'm just going to dump the whole mixture with the water that hasn't been absorbed yet into the frying pan. And let that water basically cook off. Pretty much everything is nice and the way it's supposed to be. I'm also going to add some Montreal chicken spice to the mix. And while that's cooking, I'm going to make my tea. It's smelling very good. Now I'm going to eat my dinner, and I'm sure you don't want to watch me doing that. The Whiskey Jacks are getting very brave. Got Freddie and Gracie both guarding the bowl now, and they're still managing to get within a few feet of it. It has been absolutely amazing spending last night and today here at the Indian Bay Forestry campsite. It's completely free. It's on the south side of Francois Lake, so you have to take the ferry across this lake to get here. But it's very close to the ferry dock on the south side and super easy to find. It's on iOverlander. But now it's time to pack up and head back across the lake to the north side of Francois Lake and into Burns Lake. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget, hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more. Bye.